the site of Собеседник newspaper. It's the first color media in Soviet Union, published since 1984. And first I'd like to say that it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for coming again. You're such a sweetheart and I love your books. And it's not your first time in Moscow. What was the year you first come here?
1984. Which was incredible because it was no different. Honestly, in 1984, the contrast now is like watching a black and white movie and watching it in colour. It's that difference. Everything was very drab there. It was a different city.
What has changed since that time, especially?
I think people's clothes. People wearing, I remember when I was first there, people were very drab clothing. Most women were not wearing, I think because there were not nice dresses available. People just looked miserable back then, a lot of people. But I think what's changed, and there were no cars, hardly any. You could walk across Gorky, or the street,
Невский проспект is in St. Petersburg, maybe Leningradsky prospect.
Yeah. What was it?
Leningradsky prospect. Yeah, I know, because Leningrad is St. Petersburg, so it just makes it so nice.
I was there too. And there were hardly any cars. And they had the Berioska shops, the equivalent shops that people couldn't buy things. There was nothing in the shops. I went into Gum in 1984. And there was nothing to buy.
What did you buy?
Nothing. There was a 1954 record player. I mean, it was, and the lights were so low you could hardly see anything. It was like really, the atmosphere was quite oppressive, and you felt it all the time. Now it feels like a really great modern city, vibrant, colour. The buildings are just, the modern buildings are just stunning. I think it's a really exciting city now. Before, in 1984, it was like raining.
And what makes it exciting, in your opinion, for you?
For me, quite a lot, I think, because there's a lot of energy in Russia. It's a very different culture to Europe. I think the people are very much the same, but I think the traditions of Moscow. If you go back historically, from England has been a free country, so-called, forever. Whereas I think after the Tsars, we had the revolution and the heavy hand of communism, quite oppressive hand. And to see a nation emerging from that, it's fascinating. And I came in 1984, then I came in 2007. At 2007, you could see a big change, but you could still see some of the old Russia. Like you'd see Bentleys, you'd see BMWs, but you'd see on every corner there'd be somebody with a broken down van or an old car. But now everything is much more kind of modernized, 21st century. It's almost indistinguishable from a big Western city. But at the same time, it does retain a strong Russian culture. And you've got, what I love about Russia is, as a writer, I love the literary history of Russia. If you go back, Dostoevsky and Anton, you've got a fantastic literary heritage. I love the Russian poets when I was in school. I love Evgeny Yevtushenko, was my favorite poet. And Zima Junction, I still remember that, a day like any other, first and last line. So I've always been steeped in Russian writing and playwrights, and its movie Sergei Eisenstein and the great Russian movie makers. So to me, it's always been an incredible place.
There are some differences between our countries. We use internet different in Russia, a little bit, and some other things about our everyday life is also not the same. So maybe, is there any statistic, what do you think, if it's easier to find out who is the crimer in Russia or in Great Britain? What do you think? But before you answer, please help yourself. This is what for you.
Is it easier to find the criminal?
Yes, maybe in Russia or Great Britain, because countries are not the same.
Yeah, I think, I don't know the statistic in Russia, but in England, where with homicide, 93% of all homicides are resolved, whereas I don't think that figure is anything like that in Russia. We don't have, I know that there was for a long time, I was told by the chief of police that in around 2000 the Russian mafia were immensely strong and powerful, but I think we've lost some of that power now. We've never had that in England. We've never had a crime fraternity that's had such a strength as I think it did have in Russia for a time.
Yes, and you also even wrote a book about Russian mafia. What do you think? Will you be able to write one more, or the mafia has changed so much since that time? How is everything with Russian mafia now? Because we don't know. Maybe you can tell us.
Well, the chief of police, I met the chief of police in 2007 here in Moscow, a guy called Alexander Havkin at that time. And I said to him, is the Russian mafia real, or is it something that you read about and it's a fiction of the Western newspapers? And he said, we lost control of Moscow in 2000 to the mafia, and we didn't get it back for several years. I said, well, what happened? And he said, how much does a police officer earn in England? And I said, a young police officer in London about £27,000, 35,000 euros. He said, in Moscow, 3,000 euros. He said, well, you have badly paid police, but then a little bit of corruption. I think that was a part of the problem. I think at that time, I think maybe it must have changed a lot, but I think at that time there was corruption. And we had corruption in the police in England in the 60s. Big, in fact, in Brighton, the chief of police was arrested, and all the senior detectives. So it's not something exclusive, but corruption is a real problem for law and order, because if you have a corrupt police force, and I've seen it in many countries of the world where the police are corrupt, then you have no respect from the public. So I think one thing that the police did try really hard in England to do was to get that respect back, and they succeeded. So the police need the cooperation of the public. They want the public, they need the public help. Not a patron of an organisation called Crime Stoppers, which is a charity that works with the police and basically makes every single member of the public part of the eyes and ears of the police force. Because one police force cannot. In England we have 150,000 police force and 60 million people.
Have you met anyone from Russian mafia so far?
I have abroad, not here in Russia, but I have in England, Europe.
Because they're all there, some of them.
Well, that's true, there's quite a lot of them are there right now.
And who's this guy?
I don't know. I want to stay alive.
Well, what is his nickname, at least? Because they're best known by nicknames.
And well, he showed me all about, he taught me a lot about tattoos as well, and markings, which was fascinating. He gave me a whole kind of lecture on prison tattoos as well, and the different symbols of criminal tattoos. But I mean, they're on a, and I've had people, I know somebody who was the girlfriend of the Russian Nazi, she left him, and he tried twice to have her killed. So it's fascinating. We don't have that quite in that aspect, it's different. You probably don't have. You have it more in probably America, where there's big crime families. In England, most of the crime families tend to just stay within their own groups. We have the famous Frays, and they tend to just be with their criminals.
Okay, and I would like to ask you 3 interesting, hopefully, questions in a row to check how good you are in finding out who is the criminal, the murderer. My first question is, what do you think, was Edwin Drood murdered, actually? Because you're also fan of this most mysterious Charles Dickens book. Have you ever researched of...
Well, yeah, I think he was murdered. From my memory. Because what
who murdered him?
Well, what fascinates me about Charles Dickens is that he was a crime writer. People forget that. If you look at half of his books, they involve crime and the crime world. So I think that if he was writing today, he would be a crime writer.
And what do you think, maybe he did not finish the book especially, not because just he died, maybe he felt that soon it will be his time and...
Just leave the mystery for people forever. It could be, I think that he liked to play with people. I mean, he was the inventor of what I would call the cliffhanger. Because when he originally published his stories in a magazine, which he published. You know this, that he published a magazine every 2 weeks, and he had to make you want to buy the next copy. So he'd leave the chapter always, what we call in English, cliffhanger, making you want to read on.
And second question, thank you for your ideas. It's very interesting to hear from one great writer about another great writer. And the second question, something happened in your country this year. What do you think about our guys Bashirov and Petrov? And did they poison Skripal, or was it someone else? Will we ever find out the truth?
It's a really good question, and it's fascinating. It fascinates a lot of people in England at the moment. I think we will find out the truth. I think at the moment we don't know the truth. And I think that people jump to conclusions very quickly, which is never a good thing in an investigation. I think you've got to really examine the evidence carefully, and I don't think we have yet. I think there have been accusations levelled at Putin as well. But it's very dangerous to start making accusations until you are absolutely sure. And I don't think we're there yet. But it does fascinate me. I mean, I think that any big story like that, and I'm always interested in conspiracy, and I still wonder who killed Kennedy. That still fascinates me, and I still don't think we know the answer to that yet. So some mystery, I do think some mysteries sadly will never get resolved, but I suspect this one will.
And what do you think, maybe there is a time while if you have not found out during this time, you will never find out, especially about in Kennedy case, because it's so many years ago, 1963.
Well, the big problem is that once you get to a point where there's no one left alive who could give you any evidence, then it becomes much harder, unless there's anything in the archives that's concealed from the public that one day comes to light. But in England with the police, when I first met Roy Grace, my real life Roy Grace, and he had all the crates and the cold cases, he said that what they do is they will continue to investigate any case where there is somebody still alive who could benefit from the investigation. If it's a relative or perhaps a perpetrator. But when there's nobody alive that could still benefit, then it just becomes a matter for historians.
And during my interview, I just thought, why not, because you give us so much pleasure by answering our questions, and it's so interesting to hear you. So why not to give you some fun? And when I was preparing, I put on searching machine that request simple detective questions for kids. And the first questions which I got, I would like to ask you one of them. It was in Russian. I translated it in my mind, so I hope you will understand. There is a bank was robbed, and the money sometime after was found out near cactus, the plant cactus, and cactus. It's a green plant which you can get tequila in Mexico. So the money was found out there, and who stole this money? How did the police manage to find who was it? But that's the whole story.
So the money was stolen from a bank.
And that was the easy story I found.
Okay, so the money's taken from a bank.
Yes.
And it's found near a cactus.
Yes. The whole story.
Can I ask?
As many as...
So where was the bank?
It doesn't matter.
So
Actually, you have everything you need for the answer in the story.
So the money stolen from the bank was found there. So
Sometime later. Yes, who stole? No, how did the police find who stole them? Not who stole them, how did they find it?
Okay, well, it could have been, somebody could have got pricked on the cactus and left their blood, so they could have maybe followed the trail.
Yes, exactly. You're a genius, because I didn't guess it. It just came to your mind within a second. But that's why you are a good writer. Thank you.
I love Roy Grace. No, I have no plans to stop.
Because we heard
I think every writer who's finished their character, like Sherlock Holmes, then regrets it and brings him back. I love Roy Grace. No, every time I start a new book, I sit down and I say, "Hi Roy, how are you doing?" And I talk to my characters. It's like going back to my family.
after Cameraman, we decided to finish with...
Great. Yes, thank you.
After Cameraman, once decided to kill Sherlock Holmes because he was tired of writing stories about him. So what do you think, can it happen with you, that you will decide to kill Roy Grace because you will be bored of him, or it will never happen?
At the moment, it's not going to happen. I think that you're very lucky as a writer. The most important character is the most important thing as a writer. People read books to find out what happens to characters that they become engaged in. And the hardest thing in writing is to create a character that people love. And I'm very lucky with Roy Grace. People seem to love him. I get letters from readers saying that he's the only detective they ever wanted to sleep with. And I think, when Conan Doyle killed off Holmes, he was never able to create anybody as good again, and that's why he went back to him. I think as a Scottish writer, Ian Rankin, again, he was a child Rebus, and then brought him back. Because I think it's really hard. Once the public loves someone, they don't want somebody else. And luckily for me, Roy is only 42 years old now. So he's got another 20 years before he has to think about retiring.
Is he going to get married soon?
Yeah, he has now. He's got married to Cleo now. And he has a baby son in the next book.
Oh, but maybe, what do you think, will girl love him less because he's already out of the market?
I'll get him divorced, sorry.
And what do you think, all the detective guys who find out who is the criminal, they are either a little bit crazy like Sherlock Holmes, or they are so handsome, but they never an ordinary person. Why?
I mean, Roy is a little bit ordinary. He's not kind of super handsome or super smart, but I think people like heroes, and I think a hero doesn't have to be handsome, but they have to have some quality that sets them apart. I think if you go back to the old days of the westerns and Hollywood westerns. You have the kind of the hero, rides into town and deals with the situation and rides out again. And I think with crime fiction, you want to have a character who is interested in some way. It doesn't have to be phenomenally strong, phenomenally handsome, or phenomenally bright, but something endearing about them. I think that's the most important thing. We've had, if you look at the great detectives of the past, we've had Ironsides in a wheelchair, we've had Jeffrey Deaver has his hero also in a wheelchair. You don't have to have a superhero, but you have to have somebody that you have empathy with.
Do you feel your responsibility, Peter, about people who can read your books and would like to do the same crime as you describe? And another responsibility that you give some ideas how we can find out who is a criminal. So for real criminals, it can be useful not to do these mistakes.
That's a really good part. The second part of the question, often when I'm with the police, they ask me not to reveal certain things, like with this new book, With Then If You Don't, where I have quite elaborate kidnap procedure when the police are running a kidnap operation. They gave me a lot of help to make it feel genuine, but they asked me, there's certain things they asked me not to put in, just to hold back enough that the criminal wouldn't fully understand how they operate. And I've done that on a number of occasions with previous books, where they'll tell me some things and I'll say, but please don't put that bit in. So when I write my novel, I always let the key police officers who help me read it at first draft, and then if there's anything they think that could give them too much help, we change it subtly. In terms of do criminals get ideas from me, I honestly don't think so. I think that there's nothing that I could write that some criminal hasn't already thought of. I think man's inhumanity to man over the centuries beats anything that a crime writer can dream up. And I mean, villains and police are always playing catch up. The villain gets ahead, police catch up, police get ahead, villains catch up. But I don't, in terms of, I think there have been cases where criminals have said they've been inspired by something that Stephen King wrote or a horror movie. But I don't think it's that often. And if I do write something that no criminals yet thought of, I know that a lot of police read my books, so they'll be ahead of the game.
And do you have any helpful advice for our readers how not to be a victim of any kind of criminal? Maybe there is something we do in our everyday life and we don't think that it can be dangerous for us.
I think today the biggest danger is the trail that we all leave on social media. For instance, there are insurance companies in England now. If you go away on holiday, and you post pictures in your villa in Spain, and then your house or your apartment is burgled, the insurance companies are saying, well, hang on a second, you told the whole world you were away. So that's where you have to be very careful. So I think in terms of what you post, because what people don't realize about what you post, if you go to a villa in Spain, or you just go to Gorky Park and you post a photograph of yourself with friends, within half an hour any villain can find out where you live from that photograph, because they can match your photograph to other photographs, geomapping. The amount of information that we unwittingly put out on the internet is staggering. My wife is a runner, and we have an app. She uses an app called Strava, and that plots your run. And she suddenly realised that somebody else was following her on Strava, exactly her run. And they realised that the run shows you where you start and finish from, which is your home. So she was literally being stalked by somebody. So it's to be really, I think the most important thing these days is to be mindful of what you put on social media.
Thank you for your advice. So we will post less pictures on Instagram. Hopefully we will manage. And for people who don't use internet so much, what could they forget about? Hotel cards. Is it true that they keep all information? Your key from the hotel door.
Well, technology does change, but when you get that plastic key card, that used to have your address on it, everything, and there was a big traffic in selling that. That has now stopped. I think most hotels now, it's just, all it does is open the door, but that key card used to have everything on it. And so somebody could get your address that way. I think that it's always been, the best advice I can give is to think like a police officer. And the police think, personally, they assume nothing, believe no one, check everything. It's ABC, right? Assume nothing, believe no one, check everything.
Oh yes, ABC in English.
Yeah. And that's a really good maxim. Police become cynical in their careers. They learn to trust nobody. And secondly, is think about where you sit. If I'm going to meet a police officer in a bar, I know where he'll be sitting. He'll always be sitting facing the door with his back to the wall. So I'd be in the policeman's chair now. I can see the whole room. So I can see if there's a villain sitting over there that I've been looking for 2 years. I can see who's coming in the door, and nobody can come behind me. I'm safe. So it's always being aware of your surroundings.
And there are 4 people in our room right now. This beautiful girl with you, my cameraman, you and me, and who is the criminal of us? What do you think?
I think the one who looks the most innocent.
And about English, to interview you as much as you will be sitting here, and I cannot just let you go with my wish, because you are such an interesting man and such an opportunity to talk to you, so how can I finish myself? No. And I would like to tell you one interesting thing about your book. I found out that, I don't know if you know about it, but your books have the same word in each title, like Dead Simple, Looking Good Dead, Not Dead Enough, Dead Tomorrow. You know about it, but do you know that they translated, when they are translated, I don't know about all languages you were translated, because there are so many of them and it's amazing, but in Russian they did not keep it, they did not save it for all of the books, and for example, Not Dead Yet, in Russian it's Still Alive. It doesn't matter for you. Okay.
I have to, I think, reflect that things have different meanings in different countries, so it's a shame, but it's the same in many other countries too. I think that, Germany, Looking Good Dead is Beautiful Death, so it's...
So maybe now you will pay attention also on how
absolutely.
It's a helpful interview for you as well. And since we have just 2 minutes, I would like to ask you, I also heard that you are a cool guy, and when people would like to give you something as a present, they give you a patrol car. Do you drive them, and how does it look like?
Yeah, no, I race. I do a lot of car race. I like to race classic cars. It's my kind of mad hobby.
And does Madonna know that you wrote a book about her?
No, but it's sort of based on her and Lady Gaga, so it's a combination of the two, not really based on her.
But are you going to tell her one day, maybe on her
If I see
concert?
her, if I see her.
To give a note on her concert, like Madonna. And also you have visited the Moscow police station. How does it look like? What is the difference with American and British ones?
When I saw it in 2007, it was interesting. It was quite old-fashioned compared to most British police stations, but it may have changed since then, so I haven't been back there for like 10 years. So I'd be interested to see it now. But I found it fascinating. I think that, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, at that time, I think the crime level in Moscow was higher than London. Now London is pretty bad right now.
There are so many good detectives in our world and bad detectives. What is the difference between them? Can we understand what is worse to buy? And in a good detective story, shall we find out who is the murderer or criminal or not?
I think it's always good to have a kind of a satisfying conclusion. I like always, to find out who the villain is or to see the villain arrested. But what I like is that arresting the villain is only part of it. The next part is getting them convicted. And that's like the toughest thing for the police, is so often they arrest someone, they go to all the work, and then a very clever barrister gets them off, or the jury acquit them. And I'm writing about that at the moment.
Thank you so much for your interview. And for the last question, unfortunately we're out of time, I would like to ask you, maybe Roy Grace is so good because later we will find out that he's actually Russian.
Now there's a story.
But now you know about Bashirov and Petrov, so anything can be. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you too.
Thank you. Thank you. And can you write, can you sign your book for all of our readers?
Sure.
Собеседник.
Or
Собеседник in English it's interlocutor. Thank you so much.
all the readers, I put.
These girls are criminals because they stop our interview.
Should I say it's all?
Sobednik. Собеседник means the person who are you talking to right now, interlocutor.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was